Pretty loud. So introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Richard Toledo. I come from Pueblo Pintado, New Mexico, the dimple of the universe. Go ahead. Ask me some questions.
What was it like growing up here?
I grew up at Pueblo Pintado community, also known as the Raton Spring area, up in the mesas. So today you see a lot of movies on TV, such as the Alaskan Bush People and Naked and Afraid, and stories about how people learn to survive. Well, how come they didn't make movies about us, the Toledo family? We lived where there was no running water, no electricity, no highway. We had to go 100 miles either to Farmington, New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico, or Gallup, New Mexico to get the basic needs to survive, like groceries. When we were children, my father worked on the railroad for about 15 or 20 years, and he got hurt while on the railroad, and he had to give that up. After he gave that up, he mostly went on, what do you call those, migrant labor during the growing seasons. Most of the time he spent his time in Idaho. And for the rest of the year he had to work at the local trading posts. My mom and dad were, they raised sheep, cows, horses, so they knew how to butcher all kinds of animals, and the local trader would call on my dad and my mom almost weekly to come in and do the butchering the first of the week. And what parts they did not want, they would bring home and to feed us. Also, my dad was very good with horses, and ranch work. A lot of the areas around our home were ranches owned by people from nearby areas like Grants, New Mexico, or Gallup. And my dad used to work for these ranchers. He also utilized my brothers. They cut cedar posts for the local ranchers. So, and these fences that they built are still standing to this day. The Navajo Nation bought the ranches, and they leased these out to Navajo people that have cattle. My mom and dad were very traditional, meaning they knew all about Navajo culture. My mom would make traditional Navajo food for us all the time, or else we couldn't have made it just buying canned goods and things that needed refrigeration. So they grew, we had a farm every summer. And we harvested a lot of corn, harvested a lot of squash and pumpkins. So, and they would store these in hogans. So we didn't need refrigeration. And in the winter, they stayed warm enough so they wouldn't freeze. Another question?
What was your mom like?
Well, my mom was very well liked in the community because she knew the culture. A lot of people called upon her to teach them how to weave a Navajo rug, which she made from raising the sheep and goats and shearing their hair in the spring. And she would card and spin the wool and the mohair into yarn. And she would collect local herbs and plants which she used to dye the yarn. And during the nights or during the cold winter nights, she would stay up and card and make her rugs. And the rugs brought income for the family, which they used to buy groceries and clothing for us. Also, they had a lot of friends who had trading posts and pawn shops in the border towns, Farmington, Gallup, Cuba, and they would take their jewelry and their rugs to these people, traders, and in return they would get money, which they would repay later. And when they needed money, they used their pawns to buy things for us. Also, the wool from the sheep and the goats would be used for money.
What do you remember about your siblings growing up?
What I remember about my siblings is well, I'm the fifth child, so the older ones always took care of the younger ones. And when my mom was away, the older girls would do all the work that my mom used to do. And my mom taught them how to cook and do all the things that she normally would do. If my dad was away, then my mom would tell us boys what things to do, give us assignments, collecting wood or getting water, herding sheep, and she took very good care of us while my father was away.
What's the worst trouble you ever got in as a kid?
The worst trouble I got in as a kid was, gosh, I can't remember. I never got into any trouble. Well, I think it was when my cousin Eleanor caught fire, and she burned some like 50% of her body, and we all got whipped real bad because of that, even though it wasn't really our fault.
Anything else?
That's it.